What's up, y'all? My name is JR, and for those of you who don't already know, I'm a huge movie and TV nerd. If you're new here, I appreciate you taking the time to check out my channel. I hope you'll consider sticking around and joining the film community I'm trying to build here on YouTube. So, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the latest Marvel miniseries, Echo, and how I think the show ultimately failed to distinguish itself among the absolute dumpster fire that has been the post-Endgame MCU. And just so we're clear, this video will contain some mild spoilers, so if you haven't seen this TV show yet and you don't want to know anything that happens in it, you might want to exit this video now. And with that being said, no more wasting time. Let's get into it. Echo is an American television miniseries created by Marion Dare for the streaming service Disney Plus, based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name. It is the 10th television series in the Marvel Cinematic Universe produced by Marvel Studios, sharing continuity with the films of the franchise, and is a spin-off of the series Hawkeye, which we got in 2021. With Maya Lopez returning to her hometown where she must come to terms with her past, reconnect with her Native American roots, and learn to embrace her family and community. Now, Dare and Amy Rarden serve as the head writers, and Sydney Freeland leads the directing team. Alaqua Cox reprises her role as Maya Lopez/Echo with Chasky Spencer, Tantu Cardinal, Charlie Cox, Devery Jacobs, Zan McClarnon, Cody Lightning, Graham Greene, and Vincent D'Onofrio also starring. Echo was released in its entirety simultaneously on Disney Plus and Hulu on January 9th of 2024, consisting of 5 episodes. And it is the Marvel Studios' first television release to debut on Hulu and to receive a TVMA rating. It is part of Phase 5 of the MCU and the first series to appear under the Marvel Spotlight banner. Now, at the time of the making of this video, the series has a rather surprising 72% on Rotten Tomatoes, with a comparable audience score of 67%. It has a Metascore of 62 on Metacritic based on 23 critic reviews, with a user score of 5.9, and that's based on only 125 user ratings. And finally, it has a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb based on almost 10,000 reviews. So I usually like to start this part of my videos with what I liked about a movie or TV show, but I can't really do that here because I have to start out with what I think the filmmaker's biggest mistake was with this show. And that was making so many changes to the main character that I thought were completely unnecessary. Now, I'll admit I didn't know a whole lot about Echo before watching this show, because even though I grew up collecting comic books, Echo wasn't one of them. So about midway through the pilot episode, I stopped the show and I went digging for Echo's story as it was told in the comics. And after doing so, I couldn't understand why the filmmakers chose to change so much about the character for the series. Most of all, Maya's powers, and making her an amputee. But I digress. So let's get to the show's absolutely awful pacing. The pilot episode was an absolute mess. It almost played like a trailer. Now, I realize that that's because a lot of what was happening in the first 30 minutes of the pilot were flashbacks to the Hawkeye show and, things that happened in Maya's childhood that would lead up to her coming back home to her hometown and then figuring out where to go from there. But it was bad because, you as you're watching this, you have no earthly idea what's going on. Everything's so chopped up and it's just discombobulating. And like I said, in fact, the only way you would have any idea what's going on in the first 30 minutes of this television series is if you've watched Hawkeye to completion before watching this show. And again, even if you have seen Hawkeye, which is essentially what I had to go and do before making this video, the flashbacks that the writers made us watch at the beginning of the series, the events that would lead to Maya leaving Oklahoma for New York City to begin with, I still found were poorly written and omitting necessary characters and context that, we, the audience, would need in order to properly understand the series of events that would take place once Maya got back to her hometown later in the episode. But, whatever. Now, Kingpin makes an appearance in this series both in the flashbacks and, in the present day storyline, which I did like, if I'm being completely honest, because I do like D'Onofrio in that role, and Kingpin is one of my favorite characters, as is Daredevil. And he manages to even play a prominent role despite having been shot in the face by Maya at close range in the flashback in the pilot episode. But by the time you get halfway through the limited series, you find that not much has shifted in the plot aside from Maya having returned to her hometown and her presence there greatly impacting the lives of her family members, being her Uncle Henry, her grandmother Chula, and her cousins Biscuits and Bonnie. And from there, the show simply is comprised of Kingpin trying to convince Maya to come back with him to New York, again, despite having shot him in the face and left him for dead. Until the anticlimactic ending. The ending is so anticlimactic. Where Maya imbues her grandmother and her cousins with the power to free themselves from the clutches of Kingpin's men, which was such a disappointing part of the story. I was so disappointed when I saw how this thing was going to end. Now, I heard rumblings about production issues with this show a while back. And I even heard that after seeing the final product, there were some executives that were thinking about shelving this series. I also heard that there was a gag order on reviews of this show leading up to its release. And, we all know what that means. And I'll admit that when I saw that the show was released in its entirety on Hulu as well as Disney Plus, I did think that was a bit strange. But I thought to myself, how bad could this show actually be? And so, here we are. I won't say that the show was completely awful, but I can't say that the show was really good either. Overall, I give the show a 55% or 5.5 if you're thinking IMDb score. I think that while there were a handful of cool visuals, and I thought that it was an interesting creative choice to cut the sound in some of the scenes, placing us in Maya's shoes for a bit, with her being deaf. Ultimately, I think that the best thing that could have been done with this TV show would have been for the filmmakers to compress the show's 204 total minutes of content down to a more digestible 120 to 140 minute feature film event. And that would have meant getting rid of a lot of the unnecessary and redundant elements that may have done a lot to help the story's pacing problems and increase the emotional impact of this story. I think had the filmmakers done that, it may have kept me more invested personally in this story overall. Unfortunately, despite the handful of positive and important elements surrounding Echo's Native American heritage, especially with her ancestors and her being able to do the things that she was able to do considering her disability, this show mostly felt like filler to me. But what do you guys think? Do you think Echo would have functioned better as a feature film? Or did you find that you liked this show exactly the way it was presented to us? Let me know in the comments. And for those of you who might be new to the channel, be sure to like and share this video. If you really like the content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified whenever I drop a new video. Also, be sure to go check out themaskscreenwriter.com for more television and film reviews and info on my upcoming film projects. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I got screenplays to write. I'll catch y'all in the next video.